Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, this is Salamander Jones, and you're listening to Hell in a Cell Talk Radio.
Hell in a Cell Radio!
Ladies and gentlemen, I wake up every day with a little twinge in my back, a little twinge in my neck, because of the bumps, the clotheslines, the over-the-top ropes onto the floor. And I'm not wanting anything in return for it. That's how much I thought of you guys. Each one of these gentlemen does the same thing because you, the WWE wrestling fans worldwide, deserve every ounce of our energy, every ounce of our effort, every time we went to the ring. Thank you, and God bless you.
We are here live for a special edition of Hell in a Cell Talk Radio. I am your host, Double D. You can find me at Folsom County. Also with me is the above-average comedian, Dan the Man Law.
I don't feel so funny right now.
Where can the people find you, Dan?
The corner of the room. No, they can find me at DanLaw83 on Twitter.
And this is a little odd, starting right from the beginning.
Oh.
It is none other than Omega Squad.
I've often been called a little odd.
Oh, well, you know.
Was that French?
No, he said a little odd. He spoke English.
I spoke English. I said I've often been called a little odd.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I didn't hear it.
He was as clear as Papa Don there.
Yes. Now, where can the people find you, Omega?
They can find me on Twitter at Omega Squad.
Okay, now.
That was hard.
You can subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for Hell in a Cell Talk Radio. We are proudly part of the BradyHicks.com. In fact, we are probably the most popular show, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah, apparently we are.
I did not even know it. Now
I knew it in my heart.
Follow the Twitter at HIAC Talk Radio. Dan will be there tweeting all night, I'm sure. You can like the Facebook at Cell in a Hell.
I'm not going to tweet much.
That's Facebook.com, Cell in a Hell. And call in and join us because tonight we have a special guest. He's an NWA Hall of Famer. He's a WWE Hall of Famer.
Huh.
And he was a member of the original Four Horsemen. It's Tully Blanchard. We're going to call him in just a few moments.
I've always said we set a standard. When you're at a certain level, we call you.
That's true. Now you can call us if you would like to ask Mr. Blanchard a question. It is 718-664-9133. And again, 718-664-9133. Now on to the phone call here.
Oof. Wait, can we start over?
No.
Oh.
And it would help if the cursor was there.
Yeah, try again.
7-1. There we go.
We're going to hope this works.
It worked before.
Hello?
Hi, is this Tully Blanchard?
Speaking.
Hi, this is Dean Dixon from Hell in a Cell Talk Radio.
Dean, how are you?
I am doing great. You're also speaking with Dan and
sir.
Omega Squad.
Dean and Dan? That's a tongue tire.
Well, you know, we try to make it easy
tongue
for everybody.
twister would be a better.
Yeah, there you go.
And we also have Omega Squad joining us as well.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
You can call me Chris. It's probably easier.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking. We normally call him Omega Squad. But now, Tully, I wanted to start out by asking you, of course, you grew up in the wrestling business. You grew up, your father was a promoter in the Western Texas area. Just describe what it was like growing up in wrestling.
Well, it is not exactly like that because, I mean, even though my dad was in wrestling, once I got old enough to be in athletics and school and stuff like that, I went from being wrestler's kid to football player, basketball player, trackster, those kind of things. So, you know, it was, I knew what he did, but I wasn't necessarily that involved, you know, once I quit selling peanuts and popcorn when I was in the 5th grade, and that kind of stuff. And then in the summer, my job was to help set the ring up and those kind of things. So
it wasn't, you weren't really going for wrestling. Did your father push you, or did he was like, whatever you want to do what makes you happy?
No, he wanted me to play football.
Football. Now you went to you went to West Texas State.
I graduated from West Texas. I went to SMU out of high school, and then Hayden Fry got fired after my freshman year, and then we had to make some adjustments and those kind of things. And then I transferred to West Texas and graduated from there and started for 3 years and had a great, a good career and had fun, got my degree, which is very important.
Who were some of your teammates at Texas State?
Wrestlers or football players?
Both. Yeah, both.
Both. My roommate played 10 years for the 49ers, was left guard. John Ayers was his name. And Tito Santana, Merced Solis was our tight end. And DiBiase played at the same time I was there. And I think that's all the wrestlers, but I mean the Funk Brothers and went to West Texas, and Stan Hansen went to West Texas, and Bruiser Brody went to West Texas, and Dusty Rhodes at some point in time went to West Texas, and God, who else went?
Everybody.
Yeah, I mean it's probably the alumni of professional wrestling of the colleges that people went to. But
all right, well I'll ask you like this, because quite frankly I'm not so familiar, obviously, this early in your life. At what point while you're playing football did it reach an apex and you decided, hey, I'm going to give this wrestling a try? What was the decision in your mind as, all right, I'm going into wrestling?
Well, the decision was I was in a car wreck in 1974 that almost cut my right arm off. Ooh. And so my throwing ability greatly diminished from what I was capable of throwing the football. And then when I graduated from college, after running the wishbone for 3 years, they weren't exactly looking for wishbone quarterbacks. And so the not being able to go to the next level in football, you certainly kind of look around and go, okay, what can you do? And my goal was not to be a star wrestler, but to learn the wrestling business so that I could produce TV shows and be to run the promotion that my dad had.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I set out to do. And in the course of that, at some point in time, I really learned how to sell tickets. And that's kind of where the whole thing balanced out.
Now, during this time, after that time, you were with SCW. Just describe your SCW run when you first started out there.
Well, it was, it was, I was the son of a promoter, and we wanted to make me the villain instead of the good guy, which was very much against the normal grain. And, but it was very beneficial. So I became the villain against Wahoo, and that was great for a year or so, and increased our revenue immensely. And it was a very, very good thing, and set the stage for the rest of my career.
Now, there's a lot of people I know that do not know this, but there was a dynamic duo in wrestling with Chris Adams and Gino Hernandez. But what they don't know is there was the first dynamic duo, and that was yourself and Gino Hernandez. Was that something you guys were friends with, you came up with, or was that somebody, the promoters, threw that together?
No, Gino and I were very, very good as a tag team together. And then Gino, when we started to fall apart, and from internal things and partners that we brought on board that had created some chaos, Gino ended up going to work for Dallas and the Von Erichs, and him and Chris Adams became partners, and I didn't know that they actually had called themselves the Dynamic Duo, but there weren't any copyrights on stuff like that. But Gino was a tremendous talent. In fact, when I was first out in North Carolina, we contacted Gino in mid-84 and asked him if he'd come out there, and he would have been a great addition to what we were doing, but he was busy in Dallas and stayed there, and then it wasn't too much after that he was found dead, so it was a sad situation.
Now, after this point in time, somewhere along the line, you got hooked up with the Carolinas. You went to Jim Crockett Promotions, and how did you get there? What happened? Who gave you the call?
Well, I actually had gone to work for the group up in Kansas City, and the Christmas of 1983, and they ran St. Louis, and I was in St. Louis, and Jim Crockett and Dory Funk were in St. Louis for a show, and then I'm kind of out in the country. If I lose you guys, that's why.
Okay, gotcha.
But anyway, but that, and when I was I wrestled Buzz Sawyer that night, and had a great match, and went to the Marriott and spent time with Dory Funk Jr. and spent time with Jim Crockett, and just basically told them that if they would hire me, that I could generate a lot of money for them, and they told me that we should talk on Monday when we weren't having cocktails, and so I called them on Monday. And that was in mid-January of 1984, and they offered me a job, and so I gave my notice and went to North Carolina and started, I think, February 14th, Valentine's Day of 1984.
Yeah, 1984, wow. I mean, was there ever a time, every time I ever saw you, you were on every time. I don't think you ever have to be told that. But were you ever nervous? I mean, were you always that confident? Like, I got this.
Well, once I knew what I was doing, I was confident. And okay, no, we're good. We're stopped, and got a gated gate in front of me, so we're in good shape.
Okay.
But but that's where, I mean, after the 6 years at Southwest, I knew what I was capable of. I'd wrestled Wahoo for a couple of years. I had John Valentine critique me every night for a couple of years, and there are no greater people in the wrestling business, past, present, or future, that are any better known technicians than those two guys.
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn. So there was nothing that I wasn't trying to do. I didn't have an ego that I was smarter than anybody else. I just learned and learned and learned and learned, and then put it to practice.
Okay. Now, when you moved there, you were immediately put into a TV title. The TV title picture, which at the time was one of the prestigious titles in Jim Crockett Promotions.
Yeah,
I believe it was.
Yeah, and then we made it. Then we made it a lot more than it was.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, you held that title for what? Your first run was over a year, right?
It was over a year, yeah.
Probably that. I mean, you guys probably know that better than I do.
Yeah, it was over a year.
So you win that from
Mark Youngblood.
Yeah, Mark Youngblood. And you're then put into a feud with Dusty Rhodes. What did Dusty Rhodes have? Was he the booker at this point, or?
Yes, Dusty, when we started the thing with he and I, he was already the booker. And he'd already been the booker for a couple of months. But
Oh, wow.
Okay, now, what was the genesis of the Dusty feud? Was that the Baby Doll incident?
oh, no. We started the feud with Dusty before Baby Doll.
Okay. How did the feud with Dusty start?
It was over the TV title, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken. Baby Doll may have already been there. I'm not exactly sure. Dusty came in August. We didn't do Baby Doll until December. Dusty had already been there. He and I had already been wrestling a little bit with it before Baby Doll.
Okay.
But she didn't come. We didn't find her until Christmas of '84, and Dusty came in August of '84.
Okay.
And he and I had already wrestled.
Now, Baby Doll. Admittedly, I don't know a lot about her. Was it a friend of somebody? Was it somebody trying to get into the wrestling business? Was it who was Baby Doll, and what was she like as a person backstage? And
Well,
people?
Baby Doll is and was. She's the daughter of Nick Roberts, who promoted Lubbock for the Funks, and her mother was a wrestler. But Dusty was not when I was having the Perfect 10 contest.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't looking for Baby Doll. They were looking for Sunshine, and nobody could find her. Nobody could find her. But Dusty and I just happenstance when we went to Florida to do the Christmas week of 1984. Baby Doll was there as Nicola, the Lady Giant, or something like that. But excuse me. And I told Dusty, I said, "That's Baby Doll," and he agreed with me because she was very attractive. She was very photogenic, but she was 6'2" and 215 pounds, and it was perfect.
She could take care of business in the ring as well.
Well, she was perfect because if you looked at her, she wasn't the perfect 10, but I could talk about her as being the perfect 10, and there was a lot more heat generated than if I'd have walked out there with Sunshine, who was a gorgeous, trim bombshell.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No,
Oh,
it
yeah.
definitely.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
It definitely does.
And I mean, Baby Doll was perfect, and that's where we did and where we went, and the success of it that we're talking about it 27 years later. Oh my, that just lets you know. Same thing with the Four Horsemen. While we're talking about it 27 years after the fact, lets you know the impact.
Yeah. I mean, that's really
exactly the point. Yeah. Now, the whole Baby Doll angle, you teamed for a little while. Were you ever nervous when you started the whole angle with Dusty? At one point, you're going to go on TV and you're going to smack her. Were you ever nervous on how that was going to come across on the national TV audience?
No, I was just afraid that she'd beat me up.
It looks fantastic. I mean, you go back and look at that, and it just haul off, and it always made me nervous. Like, oh my God, one of the persons when I was young, you came through the TV and made me hate that character. I hate you. It was fantastic to see.
All right, now, Tully, I do have audio of that moment, so I'm going to play that, and we'll talk to you on the other side of it.
Where in the world have you been?
Well, Tommy, you should know you can't. JJ gave me the ticket to Acapulco. He said it was my Christmas present from you.
JJ gave you what from me?
JJ gave me a ticket to Acapulco for my Christmas present from you. JJ, come here. You gave me the ticket. Remember? You said it was a Christmas present
Sounds
from
like some
Tom.
rotten in Denmark to me, but I didn't tell JJ.
JJ, come on, tell him.
You're a real sweetheart, Baby Doll, and I think the world of you. but you're going to have to figure out some other way to cover your tracks because I don't know what you're talking about.
JJ, come on, tell him. You gave me the ticket.
Get your hands off of him. If you're taking off, you're button people. You're my kid. And if you're running off, put your hands on her again. She don't belong to you. She belongs to me now. Don't you ever put your hands on her.
All right. Now, one thing that I take from listening to that is just how the crowd was so into that. I mean, you really don't get that reaction anymore today.
No, you don't.
Oh, not at all.
Now,
not at all.
When you guys were fighting for her services, again, it goes back to the question: were you ever nervous about the hate mail or the hate letters you would get for fighting for a woman's services or for her ownership?
We didn't even get any hate mail for that. The chaos we got was when I was having the Perfect 10 contest and had people sending in pictures and why they should be the Perfect 10. Oh my goodness gracious! I won't even talk about it. But that was crazy. You're laughing way too much in the background.
Come on, Omega.
That's what he does. But.
Yeah, it's pretty much what I do.
Yeah. So after you moved on from the Dusty Rhodes feud, you ended up in a feud with Magnum TA. How? And I confess I haven't seen these matches, but from what I hear, they're pretty bloody and brutal. Can you talk about that feud a little bit?
You've never seen one of the Magnum TA matches in myself?
He lives under a rock.
I live under a rock. I apologize for that, but yeah.
Well, if you've never seen the cage match from Starrcade 85, you haven't done your due diligence before this interview.
Oh, well, we tried.
I do apologize for that. I'm the MMA guy. I apologize, but
okay.
Since you brought it up, sir, there's one question. If I ever met, there's one question that I've always wanted to ask you if I ever met you. Like I said, whenever you came out to the ring, you looked calm, cool, collected. You were the man. When you came out to the ring for that cage match, what is going through your head?
How to make that the greatest match of all time.
It's one of my top three. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite cage matches I've ever seen. And you guys look like you wanted to kill each other. The blood, the violence, the physicality of that match is just, you can't tell a story like that anymore, in my opinion, in wrestling. That's what's missing. That's one of the things missing is you guys told a story in that half-hour, 45-minute cage match. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, but it was only 15 minutes long.
Was it? That match seems like it's so long every time I see it, and it's amazing to see.
The thing that go ahead, Tully. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the thing that point of contention that I always had is you never said I quit. You just said yes.
I never did. Absolutely never said I quit. It was an I quit match. It was not a yes match. It was an I quit match.
So that's been something that I guess has been burning for years. You're in this feud with Magnum TA. He wins this match without you saying I quit. And we'll get into the baseball incident a little bit later on. But around January of 1986, the Four Horsemen is born. Are born. Yes, the grammar police is on. So when you guys, the four of you, that's Ole, that's Arn, that's yourself, that's Rick. When you four get together with James J. Dillon, who was your manager at this point, what was that? Did you know you were onto something right from the get-go?
Well, it was something that was very, very exciting, and you really didn't know you were onto something except the fact that you had college students dressed in sunglasses and sport coats and banners, window stickers that said Four Horsemen, that you knew you were onto something.
Yeah, definitely. Now,
hold on 1 second, okay?
Go ahead.
Hold on, just 2 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
How are you, Dan?
I will give Tully Blanchard as much time as he wants, quite frankly. I'm just saying.
All right.
So how are you, Dean?
I'm doing all right.
How many guys have you had interviewed that they're pumping gas?
Oh, none. Listen, let me just get this off my chest. You are giving us your personal time. I could not say thank you enough, so you do what you got to do, sir.
Yeah, just let us know when you're ready.
Yeah, we're all good.
Oh, okay.
I just got to pump some gas. So I don't have to. I've got to get gas so I can drive around where there's reception.
Well, we've been lucky so far.
Yeah.
So the Four Horsemen starts, and you're just a collective band of bullies. One thing I wanted to get into with you is working as a heel. You have a certain philosophy about working as a heel. Could you share that with us?
Well, it's my job to make people scream, and when you're making people scream, you are usually getting beat up. People don't scream when their heroes are getting beat up.
So it was your job to make sure that you were in a position where you were a threat to the face, but overall your position was to take that beating when the face would eventually win. Yeah.
Absolutely. People only scream when their hero is winning. Okay. And so my job was to get enough heat to where their hero, Dusty, Road Warriors, Rock and Roll Express, Rockers, Demolition, whoever it might have been, were making a comeback and were beating us up. That's how it works. And that was how we did it. Flair did it, Arn did it, I did it, Barry did it, Foley did it, and that is the way it's supposed to work. They haven't quite figured that out today.
No, they certainly haven't. That's a big problem because while the faces may be sympathetic, they really don't have a good heel to work off of, like the Four Horsemen were, like yourself, like Rick was, definitely. One question I wanted to talk about was the Great American Bash, the War Games. Now, who thought of that idea?
Not us.
Was that Dusty? Was that another one of Dusty's creations?
Probably. I'm not sure who thought it up, but it was friggin' nuts. But it worked.
Now, it's been on the record that Arn and Dusty started how many? Like 50 of those over the course of the year.
Well, they may have had a bunch of them after. I was only in 2 of them.
Oh.
And because when Arn came back, they may have done a lot more Great American War Games or whatever. But I was not part of those because I was already out. But before Arn and I went to the WWE. We were only in 2. Omni, 4th of July, 87, and then later on that summer we were in the Orange Bowl, which was a huge crowd, and it was very, very very, very beneficial monetarily to go there.
What's it like getting in there, though? I mean, the 2 rings surrounded by steel.
Well, I mean, it wasn't much different than being in a regular cage match or just being in a match or anything else. I mean, it was. I need the receipt too. Receipt. I need yes, receipt. Oh, it's already printed. See how much intimacy we have on these interviews?
That's for sure. I do feel like I'm definitely in.
You have a road trip with me.
That's right. Road trip with Tully Blanchard. So
you didn't know what you were getting into on Facebook the other day.
No, I didn't.
Some inside baseball stuff.
Just be glad you're not the guys that got me when I was on the golf course and did the whole interview with me hitting golf balls.
That's.
I know it was a pretty good interview, but anyway.
Okay. So of course during this time we're talking like 86 to 87. The Horsemen were really a force to be reckoned with in the NWA at the time. Now, around that time, there were money issues as far as because I believe Turner was buying it at this time, and there was a lot going on.
Right.
What exactly led to you leaving the NWA at that point?
Well, they didn't want to take care of me monetarily. They didn't want to take care of Arn monetarily. And they thought Arn and I were just the tag-along guys and that we were not as important as we ended up being. And, it wasn't about our importance. It was about taking care of us. And they didn't. They didn't protect us, and they didn't guarantee us any money like they were guaranteeing a lot of other people. And they showed us that they weren't loyal to us, and so therefore Arn and I had to try to protect ourselves. And WWE had already made overtures to us about something very positive and money-making wise. And so we were going to go there. And unfortunately, after a year and a half, we realized that the pasture wasn't greener on the other side of the fence. And so we were going to go back to WCW, and then they tried to be smarter than they really were, and they ended up cutting off their nose to spite their face.
Ooh. Now, barring money issues, I have a question from the floor. As much as you say that the Four Horsemen's goal was to play the heel, get beat up at the end of the night, obviously you still know the levels the Four Horsemen reach. Do you think, with the WWE's backing, barring any monetary reward, do you think with the WWE's backing, it would have been any bigger than you guys had already made it?
I don't know if you could get much bigger than we were.
No.
I mean, at that time, the TV exposure and the TV penetration was hard to beat what TBS was, and plus we had syndicated shows in 220 some markets on top of the 605 Saturday show and the Sunday show. Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, we're here.
Okay. And so, it was, we could have got back as big a deal as we were when Arn went back if they'd have had me with them. But
oh, yeah.
You take me out of the picture, it's like having an apple pie, but you don't add sugar to it, or or you don't add sentiment to it. You don't really have it.
Yeah.
You know, and you take me out of the Horsemen, the chemistry's not there.
So another follow-up question about the Horsemen, and I agree with you, by the way. First of all, about the not having you back was obviously a mistake for the Horsemen. Well, for WCW. And I don't know if you can answer this question. I know you said you'd answer anything. The Ole Anderson leaving, was that strictly storyline, or was that there's really personal issues going on? And do you think Lex Luger was a good choice to replace?
Ole got fired for what I don't remember why anymore, and Luger was not a good choice, but it elevated him and his career to a quick star level versus just coming in and trying to beat people. And but that's why we opted out to move on to Barry, which was a great choice.
Oh yeah,
because Barry could perform. I mean, the Horsemen were about performance. They were not about anything other than performance.
All right. One question I always wanted to ask one of the Horsemen is, what do you think was the best group that was assembled? Was it the originals with Ole? Was it Luger?
No, the group that went into the Hall of Fame.
That's the group.
The best group was with Barry, because that changed the dynamics of what we did. Instead of me and Flair being the singles, it changed me and Arn being the singles. I mean, being the tag team, and Rick and Barry being the singles. But in the tag team match, Arn and Ole were limited to what they could do, and Arn and I were not. I mean, we could wrestle big guys, we could wrestle small guys, Demolition, Road Warriors. People would buy tickets to watch that. Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, the Rockers, Heart Foundation, all of that. We could do all of those, and that gave us great flexibility.
Now, when you went to the WWE, your promised green pastures, the first day or the first week, whatever time, when you first walk into a WWE locker room, what is the feeling versus the NWA, WCW locker room at that time with all that was going on? Better feeling?
Oh, no, not at all. There was a lot of apprehension, a lot of everything, and a lot of people wondering not who we were, but why we were there and what we were going to be doing, and all of those kind of things. And
what was it like?
And it was...
Oh, sorry.
Well, it was just, a lot of jealousy and a lot of whatever, and then as we wrestled and did more things and got people excited and in the audiences and stuff like that, it was, but then it calmed down after about 3 or 4 weeks and stuff like that. So
yeah.
So during this time, you started working with Bobby the Brain Heenan. What was it like working with a legend like that?
Well, I've known Bobby since I was a young guy, and Bobby was wonderful. And Bobby was, J.J. Dillon and him were the two best, and it was just awesome all the time.
Now, of course, Shawn Michaels has gone on record saying that some of the most formative matches he had in his young career in the WWE was working with the Brainbusters. Could you tell at that time, when the Brainbusters were wrestling the Rockers night after night in WWE, could you tell what Shawn Michaels would eventually become?
Oh, yeah, because he wanted to, because he was trying to. And that is, most people in that business they weren't trying to become the best performers or anything like that. And Shawn was. And he is one of the very, very few guys that sat in the dressing room and said, okay, what do I do and how do I do it? And those kind of things. And it was very, very exciting to be able to work with him and see the talent, the raw talent that he had. And it was to see his career and how it blossomed and how it grew and got better was just phenomenal.
So how long were you with the WWF before you decided you wanted to go? You wanted out. You wanted to go back.
We were there a year and a half.
And the infamous incident where you had a contract signed, they heard about a little incident with drugs, and they reneged on the deal. Did you think, all right, that's it, it's over? All right, what was your next step immediately after? Were you going to try to go back to the WWF, or what was going through your mind at that point?
No, the WWF thing, we had given our notice to work for Vince, and he was going to release us after Survivor Series. WCW we'd not signed a contract, but they had made a verbal commitment to us. And the verbal commitment they reneged on, and then they tried to play hardball with Arn and me, and instead of us staying together, they got separate and cost Arn a bunch of money and cost me a lot more money. But and it's very, very sad, and I've asked Arn to forgive me for costing him that kind of money and that kind of stuff. Excuse me. And but it was all that, and then they didn't hire me, and it was a company that didn't have a drug policy was kind of crazy.
Now this brings us... oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say this brings us to November 13th, 1989. I believe it was 4:03 in the morning.
Correct.
Just explain to us what happened at that moment in your life.
Well, at 1 o'clock in the morning on November 13th, Flair called me and told me that WCW had reneged on the deal.
Ugh.
November 2nd is when I talked to Vince, and he had suspended me because of the drug test that I failed. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, when that was done, I hung up with Flair, and I said, "Oh God, now how in the world am I going to fix this?" And for 3 hours, I laid in my bed trying to figure out how to fix it, and there was no solution coming. And at 4:03 in the morning, I said, "Jesus, take over my life." And it was the first time I'd ever said the name Jesus when I wasn't cussing somebody. And it was life-changing. Something happened to me that was supernatural, and I was changed at that moment. And all that chaos of emotion, and you've just lost a job, and you've just lost a second job, and how do you fix it all, and all that came to complete calmness when I said, "Jesus, take over my life." And he did. And that this last November was 23 years. And
wow.
So, God had a different plan for my life. And it wasn't me being a superstar on wrestling like I thought it should have been. And, I missed it. I missed the paychecks. But most of all, I missed performing and entertaining for people. And that's where I would have been, but they had God had a different plan, and I was gone, and I was out, and it was not a bad thing.
It wasn't easy from the beginning, though. I mean, you've gone on the record saying 14 months of unemployment. November.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
You lose everything. My gosh, you go from making $4,000 and $5,000 a week to making nothing. How do you function? I mean, I look like a blue light special at Kmart, selling Rolexes and selling gold watches and selling Mercedes and selling this and selling that. And then you find out how really good all your friends really are.
Ugh. Did anybody in the wrestling business at that point reach out to you, or was it pretty much hands off at that point?
Oh, the people I was closest to never even called me.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
How are you? How you doing?
Wow. So we get to December 22nd, 1990. The financial pressure is still building. You borrowed your parents' last $30,000 so you can pay off some bills. And
I paid off bills, paid off a car, paid off everything, and brought it up current.
You had no gifts for Christmas? You said, God, I quit. Take us from there.
God, I quit. 2 days before Christmas. And I didn't have a clue about anything. Had a 3-month-old, 4-month-old child, and had just gotten married, and I didn't have a clue about anything. And when I said I quit, I had no idea what had happened, but the day after Christmas, I got a phone call, and they called and asked me to come speak at their church, at a men's group or whatever. And in 5 days, my phone kept ringing, and I scheduled 75 different places to speak with an unlisted telephone number.
Whoa.
And I don't know if you have ever walked through a miracle or anything, but I did.
Wow.
And it was miraculous, and I really didn't think about it too much at that time. 20 years later, I'm going, oh, my God. That was just unbelievable. And it was, because I didn't have a clue how just important it was to say, okay, God, you be in charge, not me. And that's where the problem lies with most Christians, is they still want to be in charge, even though they say they want God to be in charge. And the two don't mix. You can't have two leaders. Anything with two heads is a freak.
So you've got to this point. You've come to this realization. Was there any temptation to go back to wrestling at that point, or just, you know, was there a lot of struggle in this new life?
Every time I tried to go back to wrestling, the doors absolutely got slammed shut. They really did. It was, I thought about it 2 or 3 times, and it was just really, really chaotic, and so it I just kept on going, and the wrestling things, the opportunities, some of them came, and then the doors were slammed shut, and then they came again, the doors were slammed shut, and they kept slamming shut, and I knew that that's not where God wanted me.
Now, speaking of temptations, was there ever a time you're at a public event, or you're at something, you're just out in public, and somebody goes, Tully Blanchard, I know you. Can I buy you a drink? Do you ever have to fight temptations like that, or is it just easy to turn that down now?
Oh, no. Not at all. I mean, it's most people don't, you can buy me a Coke. You can buy me Dr. Pepper.
Nice.
I mean,
good answer.
Occasionally I have a glass of red wine. It's not a big deal. But
cool.
I can promise you I'm not out getting drunk.
Cool. That's cool you do that. I was only asking because I related with drug addict. Long story. Not going to bore you with it.
I understand.
My follow-up question, and you're with us. He's no longer with us. My follow-up question. You said the door getting shut in your face whenever it came to wrestling. You did, however, make an appearance at Legends Reunion Slamboree '94. Was it something you were warm to? Were you hesitant showing up at that at all, or was everybody welcoming you?
Is that when I wrestled Terry?
That's Terry, yeah.
Okay, no, I was actually hoping that they'd offer me a job. I got really in shape for that deal, and it was really kind of amusing because I was in really good shape, and Terry tried to do a bunch of stuff, and it didn't work, and we still had a good match, but it wasn't what they wanted. They wanted me to get beat, but nobody asked me about that when I was, before I came. I'd asked for a lot more money if they wanted to beat me up on television. But,
oh yeah, of course.
But anyway, it was still good, and they didn't like the fact that I wouldn't put him over, and but the match was acceptable, and you just go on with it. And
you had one more match with Shane Douglas the same or a year later, did you not?
I don't know if it was a year later. That was maybe one of the first 30 minutes was a great match. The last 30 minutes was horrible. Oh. It was horrifying. But anyway.
Well, you answered my question. Go ahead, Dean.
Now, Dina. What's your current ministry involved with? I've heard it's a prison outreach. Just explain what your current ministry, what your outreach is right now.
Well, mostly what I do, I speak in any type of setting. I speak to churches, men's groups, fundraisers, but mostly, and where my heart is in prison ministry and reaching out to people that need a second chance, and that God will give people a second chance. They just need to know that, and that's where I'm at.
Okay, and around, I believe it was a couple of years before you got in the WWE Hall of Fame, you were inducted into the NWA Hall of Fame. Which one do you feel is more prestigious as far as your career? Was it the NWA Hall of Fame because you worked there for such a long period of time, or the WWE Hall of Fame?
Well, I think the because of the emphasis in the induction is so much bigger, you definitely have the WWE is a much more significant thing. But both, because the NWA is not near the organization that it once was. It was magnificent, and to be inducted into the Hall of Fame of the NWA and WWE is, it's just kind of, I'm kind of speechless on stuff like that.
Wow. Now, my only other question for you, wrestling. We mentioned a couple times what wrestling is missing. And you seem actually very content, very happy with what you're doing right now. If they ever reached back out to you to come back, either on camera or backstage, on a full-time basis, A, would you do it? And B, what could Tully Blanchard add to wrestling these days?
I don't know what Tully Blanchard could add to wrestling these days. And I would certainly go and talk to whoever if the place came for me to go back to some sort of a backstage wrestling type situation. The business has changed so much, but I think that there are certain basics in the business that stay the same, and I could certainly give and add those to the guys on whatever I would do. I was not ready to when the WWE offered me a job so many years ago. I was not ready to do it. And but it is 4 days around WrestleMania and the Hall of Fame induction. What a change of attitude on what the business has become today. It is worldwide. It is recognized. It is huge. And you cannot You cannot deny that. I mean, when you can take 11,000 people to buy a ticket to watch guys that they used to watch perform be inducted into the Hall of Fame, that's just mind-boggling. And then you put 74,000 into Sun Life Stadium the next day. You know, I'm still in awe. My mouth is dropping open and of where they have become and taken the business. And now, do I think that the performance level of what I could have done if you could have transposed me at my peak to this, I think that I could contribute a whole bunch, because there's nobody that they've got right now that could perform like the Horseman, or could. In my induction speech, I said the Horseman can follow anybody. Period.
Yeah. Period.
And I said, and today we could follow anybody. And you know, of course, I'm only talking in interview status, but we could follow anybody. And if you could put us all at our prime, there's nobody on television today that can outdo what we could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
pretty much.
My last question is, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as the performer Tully Blanchard or as the minister Tully Blanchard?
Well, you know, I'm kind of, my situation is very simple, is people are going to remember me the way they're going to remember me. And the fact that they remember me is, I'm honored and I'm humbled by it, and that's great. I'm not going to get overly, I am what I am. I was a crazy guy for 35 years, and for the last 23, I'm doing my best to walk with the Lord, and some days I don't do it quite so well, and other days I do, and, you know, that's kind of where we all are.
Okay, I do have, Tully, I do have one caller that would like to ask you a question. Are you okay with that?
Okay, sure.
Okay, let me go ahead and put them on. Caller, just state your name and where you're calling from.
Oh, hey, guys, this is Brady Hicks, Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
All right, go ahead, Brady. Do you have a question for Tully?
I do. I apologize if you covered this before. I just hopped on about 10 minutes ago, Tully, but I was thinking about it, and your WWF run with the Brainbusters in the late 80s, you had the chance to be in the ring with some pretty remarkable guys that I don't think people necessarily knew were so remarkable back then, like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Did you see something special in those kind of guys that early on?
Oh, they were big stars at that point. I mean, it was. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty were, when the first time we wrestled in Madison Square Gardens, those are the guys we wrestled, and that was the last time we were ever on a card with Hogan, which was a little bit crazy. Didn't quite understand that until many years after the fact, but we were never on before any main event guys after that either. So we were always on the last match on the card. But you know, it was, you know, those guys were special guys, and you knew that you know, they were going to be there. You know, in some way, shape, or form, they were going to be around the nucleus of the people making stuff happen. And just like I kind of always knew that I was, and the Horseman was, and Arn was, and we were. Just because when you go out there and your goal is to have the best match on the card every night, bar whoever else is on the card, and you create that kind of competitiveness amongst your peers, then the product becomes better, the fans are the beneficiary, and it lasts for a lifetime now that we're learning 25 years later what people remember and why they remember it. I've just been answering emails on Facebook, messages of people just saying, thank you for the memories. Thank you for the memories. When I was growing up, thank you for the memories. You know, just very short comments like that. And it is absolutely amazing how many people remember what they were doing, where they were, how old they were when the horsemen were doing their thing. And they can't say that about everybody in the wrestling business.
All right. Brady, do you have anything else for Tully?
One more, and I know you're running late. I'm sorry. If you look at when you guys were on top as the Horsemen, and I know it was a very popular thing, but like regionally, I always thought of it as regionally. Like WWF had their areas and NWA had their areas. Is there a part of you that wishes that the NWA had more of a presence in, say, like the Northeast or like, you know, other parts of the country, that maybe the Horsemen could have been even bigger than they were?
Well, the Horsemen were getting into the Northeast. I mean, Philadelphia we had conquered, Pittsburgh we had conquered, Baltimore we had conquered, New York City we had not conquered, but we did start moving into Long Island. The upper Connecticut, Boston, those areas, no, we didn't get in there. But the rest of the country we were already conquered in there, and but it would have been certainly a neater deal to have the penetration of the cable television into the upper Northeast to be able to get that kind of exposure that we had in the Southeast and in the Midwest.
All right, so Brady, I'm going to put you on hold. Just hang out for a minute. And Tully, I just want to thank you for your time. Wow, we just really kind of scratched the
there's
surface
so
here.
much to talk about without going in chronological order, man. I just want to seriously thank you for taking the time to talk to little old us. It was an honor, sir.
Well, it's not a problem, and after the first of the year, more stuff to talk about. Just have me back on the show.
Oh, well, okay then.
Definitely, sir.
Oh my God, yes.
Nothing like inviting myself or anything, but you know.
You could just invite yourself over anytime, as I say.
Okay.
Okay, it was an honor, and thank you again, sir.
Bless you guys.
Have a good holiday.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yes, Merry Christmas. Have a good
You
New
as well.
Year, my friend.
Okay, bye-bye.